What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, June 8th, believe it or not. We're fresh on the heels of a electric SmackDown. Not only that, we've got Battleground tomorrow. I'm stoked about that for sure. We're going to break down last night's SmackDown. I've got a sweet crew riding with me. I'm Clark Taylor, the host for today. Got to introduce my panel, though. First and foremost, out in Philadelphia, our head of opinions himself, Anthony Ricciardi. What's going on this Saturday afternoon for you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm watching the Phillies play the Mets in London. Hopefully they can keep the lead. So let's talk about some SmackDown.
Absolutely. And speaking of across the pond, I got to send it for our next panelist straight across that same pond. Near London, maybe not necessarily in London, and definitively not at the Mets-Phillies game. Jordy, what's going on this Saturday evening?
Brother, I'm good. I mean, unfortunately, I have to say, it's definitively not near London as well. I'm a fair throwaway if we're talking baseball, but no, yeah, it's. I do know somebody that is there, so that's a little anecdote, but no, yeah, I'm here to talk about wrestling anyway. As we said, it was an exciting SmackDown at points for me. To be honest, I don't have much bad to say about it. I just feel like we're in a bit of a lull period in general. But I think there was plenty to talk about from last night, and I'm excited to do so.
100%. Me too. I will say, though, based on geography alone, you are by far the closest to London of the three of us.
Fair point.
Okay. Let's talk about the main event scene, though. The big WWE champion, Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. This rivalry, I loved this promo. I thought it was really cool. And it's who quits? I quit. Stipulation time to really pay this off. We're getting what we deserve. Nothing made me happier than that. I thought the execution was solid, but that isn't even what I was blown away by. I was blown away by the fact that we're getting what we wanted the first time after we spent a lot of time complaining about how it was rushed for AJ and Cody in the first place. Now we got it. Okay, so we had a little bit of a break in the middle with Logan Paul, but we're going to get it. We're going to get the big payoff, and that to me was exciting. Do you feel the same, Anthony? And is there any odds that Cody Rhodes quits in this match, though? That's my only caveat.
I'm sure you would like that. But no. I think it's smart. You know, you're building a heated rivalry. I said last week, I do think AJ's getting close to the end. Whether or not he retires at Mania or shortly thereafter, or maybe, I do think we're getting towards the end. And I think it's smart. I mean, these are two guys that can definitely go, and an I Quit match is something that there's a lot to live up to because of legendary ones in the past. But these are two guys that can definitely do it. And it also helps try to cement this legacy with Cody in the sense where he's not just the story that he finished. You want to make it so that not only was it a great moment that was a paid off at Mania 40, but to build Cody up as a credible champion so that when the time comes and he does lose the title to somebody, it makes somebody else as well. It's not just a title win. It's you beat Cody, the man who beat the unstoppable champion. The one thing that I do think is a possibility, like I said last week, and this is just pure speculation, but if Cody's able to make AJ quit next week, could we see AJ pop up for a very short final run in TNA before he finally returns back to WWE to finish his career? Is that a possibility? Because Slammiversary is coming up in July, and there are a couple people that he could probably get in the ring with in TNA with this whole budding partnership that apparently they're starting to have. I think it would be a nice thing to do.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that's too big of a reach to picture a final run in TNA, a company that he, has a lot of stake in as far as the foundation, as far as the history is concerned. It's that one adds up. Jordy, I got to ask you about the same thing. We've got this I Quit match coming up. Where do you think AJ goes from here? I think it's interesting if we look at the more recent I Quit matches that have been booked. You know, a lot of them have been booked in a way where the quit comes from somebody they really care about being threatened more than necessarily damage being taken. I don't see a route other than damage being taken for AJ Styles for him to quit here. I don't see a scenario where Cody, I mean, that'd be a heel turn for Cody. So how do you book this I Quit match finish is one question I would ask you. And then the other would be, do you see an AJ Styles TNA run before he does finally actually retire, whether he's wearing a pastel blazer or not?
I think in terms of the TNA run, I think it'd certainly be a nice thing to happen. And it wouldn't surprise me if he actually wanted to. I know Anthony said come back to WWE and end his career there, but it wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to end it in TNA. In terms of the match itself, it is an exciting match. I'm glad we've got a stipulation. Kind of like you said, Clark, I kind of wish we had more time to build to this match, because just having Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, I get that right, involved is just a different layer, you know. Like he's outnumbered now, so I want to see some like that come into action. But yeah, I think it's great for Cody and Cody's run, because I mean, I don't see Cody losing. So if Cody goes on to beat AJ Styles, to beat AJ Styles twice, it's a good thing to kind of have on your CV.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's whether they've kind of doubled down on this, and whether Cody says kind of next week on SmackDown, like, if you want an I Quit match, when you say I quit, I want you gone. I don't want you to just quit the match. Like, I want you gone. I want you to retire like you said you were going to. Us, like, that would really make it an interesting match. I don't know if something like that would happen at a Clash at the Castle. Like, that's a potential SummerSlam main event. You know what I mean?
Seems like too soon.
Yeah, exactly. But just with it being them words being I quit, I just think it would be a way to really make me go, Jesus, is Cody actually going to win this? Because I don't know if I know AJ's coming to the end, but I don't know if that end is right now. So, yeah, I feel like we've still got a little bit more to unpack, which is strange to say because it feels like the rivalry, considering Backlash, it's been going on for a while. But yeah, it still intrigues me. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I could honestly see, and I'm starting to think about it now that you've mentioned that, just to keep this thing going, maybe it's like you said, with the numbers advantage, with the OC and everything. Maybe it's Cody has to quit. Maybe Brandy gets put in a compromised situation or something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. And then you have him win the title back at Clash. That's an interesting thought, because there has been some criticism, at least amongst the IWC, as far as Cody's babyface title reign. I'm not saying that's what I would do, not in the least. That is not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying the more we've kind of vetted it and talked this through, the more it does feel like it's kind of possible. Because
I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. I know this is crazy to say, but just with it, I just the fact of how Cody is as a character, in the terms of, like, you get knocked down, you get up, and you go again twice as hard.
Yeah.
I don't think it would actually hurt him as a character. I'm not saying now if during at some point in this reign he lost it and then won it back at the next pay-per-view and picked himself up. But I don't know.
And to your point, of all people, AJ Styles could avoid the transitional champ label, right? Because it's AJ Styles, it's like, oh no, he gets one more reign, right? We wouldn't complain about that, right? AJ gets one more. You mentioned CVs earlier, resumes in the United States, right? Like padding stats, as I like to call it, right? You can pad some stats for AJ there in a way that makes sense. And I actually think it might revitalize the groundswell that was the Cody support headed into WrestleMania 40, right? It's not that it's gone. It's just not exactly what it was. It's different now that he's carrying the title, right? And that was kind of expected. I think even the biggest of Cody fan would have expected a little bit of that, right?
Yeah, it's the same with everything, man. It's like after Endgame in Marvel, you know that the next film isn't gonna be a banger straight away. You have to give these things time, and
right.
Like, and I'm a Cody guy, like I always have been, and yeah, I knew. Like, I mean, Cena, 16-time or 15-time champ, however many times it is now, said to him after he won it that belt gets heavier every single day, and I think that it sums it up. It's a perfect way of putting it. The longer you carry that belt, the harder it is to kind of keep the crowd on your side, especially the way that the internet community is now. I mean, like, as soon as you win it, you have people turn on you. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. Now.
It is so much of a "what have you done for me lately" type culture.
Yeah.
To your point, it is interesting to me that it's like that. Like, I wish we would have a little bit more, like, not revisionist history, but history itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, play into stuff. Long-term storytelling does still land. I mean, look at what Cody Rhodes finishing the story just accomplished.
Just have to have patience, man.
This very spring.
Patience. Yeah, you can't every pay-per-view, every PLE can't be a WrestleMania. It just can't. You have to have patience. That's the thing.
100%.
Yeah, it's just part of life, really, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Okay, let's quickly though move on to, not even quickly. We can take our time here. Let's talk about the tag team title scene in the women's division. This has been a controversial division for a long time. We all know about Naomi and Sasha Banks, the artist formerly known as Sasha Banks, laying those titles down on a desk not that long ago. Let's revitalize this. I think Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill is a start. Candice and Indy Hartwell makes sense with their history from the way. Jade and Bianca getting the win makes sense to me. There was a suggestion on the pre-show from Jordy about the Nia Jax potential Tiffany Stratton partnership, which I
like it.
Truly enjoy and am interested in. Can we revitalize this division and use it to elevate the women's division as a whole on the main roster, Anthony? Or did you not see any of that last night?
I just don't think they have the teams to support this to make this work. That's always been the problem from day one. Part of the problem is I think they created them just to say they had them. And it's been a struggle for them the entire time. You know, you have a team like Bianca and Jade. That's a big name team. That's a babyface team. Realistically, what do you have for them to go up against as a credible team? I mean, you know, they teased Shayna Baszler and Zoe Starks. No one wants to see that. No one has any interest in seeing that tag title match. The problem is they don't have the teams to support this thing. I know what they were doing last night. It was to establish Bianca and Jade as a dominant team, which is fine and it makes sense. But we're also looking at it going, okay, this is essentially in place to sow the seeds for the Bianca Jade matchup at some point, because that's the dream match that people want. I don't know if they really have the commitment or the teams to continue to support a women's tag title. They barely have men for the men's tag titles to really make them work. It's always been a struggle for the company, and the excuse was always, well, Vince didn't like tag teams. Well, Vince isn't there anymore. So now it's Hunter, and it's a very tricky thing to have to support tag titles when you have a limited amount of TV time and a lot of titles and a lot of stories to support. That's the problem with WWE, and it's a problem in AEW. There's too many titles, and it's very hard to get the fans to go, I want to see this. I am interested in this. And that's the problem they have right now.
I hear you there for sure, but this is one thing that I've always been kind of confused by is the complaining about too many titles thing. The tag titles aren't two belts, right? They are two belts, but they're not. It's one team.
I understand.
Division-wise, this is what bugs me is like it when it's too many titles, is it the mid-card that's the problem, or is it tag, or is it right? Like
It's
is
if
I think the
everyone
mid-card belts step on each other's toes, whereas the tag belts and the trios don't step on each other's toes. They're different divisions.
if everyone has a title, where's the value? It needs to be a value. You need to reevaluate how many titles you
But then
have.
that's back to, I mean, we spent all the end of winter complaining about roster size. And so if the roster's too small to maintain tag team divisions or trios divisions or whatever it may be, women's tag divisions, the women's mid card, the men's mid card, multiple men's mid cards, then how can a roster be too deep? I understand the TV time part of it, but it is a little bit like it's one of those things that they can't all be.
I find it weird when anybody has to go across both brands to defend. I find it disrupts the kind of ethos of what the brand split and what the draft is, which I'm not saying, and I understand why it is, because I certainly don't think we've got enough to create two women's tag team divisions on both brands. Maybe has the talent, but you need time to, like, you can't just throw people together. Very rarely it works. It does. Like people like Chelsea and Sonya were just kind of thrown together, but they worked and it was fine. And every now and again that does happen. But in general, you kind of need like people like Katana Chance and you know what I mean, people like that have got. There's even Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Give them a bit more time because they're an actual team. But yeah, that's why I like the idea of Nia and Tiffany potentially, because it's just two people who I think could work well together and two people who I think stand a threat against Bianca and Jade. And right now, and this is what I kind of said, I can't remember if it was on the Tuesday show or this show, that when you put titles on people who are just walking over the division, you're not elevating them titles at all. That kind of makes them a bit worthless as well.
You need a legitimate challenger.
Yeah, because because what you're doing by 100%. Elevating Bianca and Jade in a great way by letting them steamroll the whole division is putting the rest of the division down on this playing field.
Jeopardy.
Yeah, so you're elevating two people who realistically, Bianca definitely doesn't need elevating. She's a star, and so is Jade. And by doing so, I just think they're damaging that division.
This is an interesting opinion I've always held. I've always believed squashes have a place in pro wrestling in the singles division. Tag team matches shouldn't be a squash because you have a partner. I don't think that's ever worked. And it's not that they've had squash matches, they've won them all, but steamrolling, you're essentially squashing the division there. As a tag team, I think the tag team division needs to be competitive at all times because of the fact that you've always got somebody that's got your back, right? So it's the ebb and flow over the course of the match, the hot tag, right? The I'm out of gas, I'm the one that's compromised, but my partner, right? Those are the stories you tell in the tag team division. Those aren't stories you tell in the singles division.
This is why I'm interested in Nia, because she beat Bianca and Jade. Well, I mean, got disqualified, but she surpassed them both on her way to be Queen of the Ring. So you're actually going up against somebody who were like, all right, they might stand a chance, because like I love India, I love Candice, I love anybody who's been put up against Bianca and Jade. But I just feel like to protect them two, nobody else is going to stand a chance against them, and it's kind of harming the division a little bit. In my opinion.
Is. Well, it's even hurting because a lot of this division is also stars, women that could be singles competitors. So to take these amount of losses, even in tag competition, it's obvious. That's where the crossover aspect, I feel like that's more the issue than the multiple titles thing. If you have an established tag division, they're competing in the tag division, and an established singles division, and they're competing as singles wrestlers, then it's a non-issue. The titles mean different things. And I think that's something that's been missing in pro wrestling for a long time.
You still have a finite amount of time of TV time to showcase all these titles. That's the problem. You don't. The time's not going up, but the titles are.
Absolutely. But look at the era that we most fondly look upon, late
Mhm.
90s. We're talking about tag titles, European titles, hardcore titles,
There was 5.
multiple titles,
There was 5.
multiple titles.
There was
I
5.
mean, there was 5 total. Are we sure?
Yeah.
European, Intercontinental,
Hardcore, European, Intercontinental, Tag, Women's, World. All right, 6. Fine.
6. So there was 5.
But still,
Right. No, but
significantly less.
no, for sure.
There was a
Anyway,
light
I'm just
heavyweight
saying.
at one point. There was a cruiserweight at one point.
Yeah, there was the light heavyweight, cruiserweight,
They cycled through them, but
brand
and
split.
I agree. I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that.
No.
But I just think to elevate a division, you need a solid rivalry, and I don't think right now we're going to see one in the women's tag division. Like, you know what I mean? You need to be like, oh, who's going to win? I mean, I'm invested in this, and like right now, every time I see a women's tag match, I'm just like, here we go again. Bianca and Jade are going to steamroll another pair, and it just doesn't do anything good for the division. All the while, I understand he's doing great things for them too. So,
100%, 100%. Okay. Let's talk, though, about our partners over at Next Level. If you're looking for more wrestling content, head over to Next Level. It's super easy. All of our links are in one place. If you're like, oh, wait a minute, where do I find more Wrestling Republic stuff? Look here. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic. All of our content across every platform. One place, super user friendly, tons of giveaways, cool giveaways. It's absolutely free to sign up. They're doing great things over there. Check it out. You will love it, I assure you. But let's move along with today's show and let's talk about Johnny wrestling, or Johnny wrestled last night. What is it? How do we do that? Johnny Gargano, Mr. Ohio himself, versus Grayson Waller, and Grayson Waller with the flipping kill switch for the victory. Not a rolling thunder cutter. Maybe he's rubbed too many shoulders with Orton. We don't see the cutter. I'm just saying, interesting, or stunner, I guess technically, but like it was kind of a cutter. The rolling it never looked like a stunner. I don't know. Either way, it's not the point. Let's talk about it. Grayson Waller, Gargano. What are we doing with Johnny Gargano, though? Seriously, I don't understand, because Johnny was a big deal. Johnny should be a big deal. And I feel like he's just been like left out of the fun on that group from the Black and Gold brand.
I feel like he's probably about to be a tag team champion, right? Personally. Like that's the thing. Like this partnership with Theory and Waller is on the verge of collapse, isn't it? We saw last night he pulled Theory into the way so he could pick up the win. Last week we saw that he kind of took credit for putting Theory, making him relevant, which you can't disagree with, really, but it's definitely heading that way, so it wouldn't surprise me. And I think DIY, we're talking about transitional champs, and I don't want to call them that because I am fans of these guys, but I think we need some probably face tag team champions ready for the Bloodline to take the belts off, and I think DIY are perfect fit for that. So yeah, I genuinely think it could well be by Clash at the Castle that DIY leave tag team champions and Theory and Waller split and head for a match against each other, maybe at SummerSlam or something. I don't know, but their time is obviously limited. I would personally like to see a little bit more from them two guys, but it is what it is. I think they've done more with the belts than R-Truth and Miz have over on Raw. And that's kind of why I'd like to see, if anyone is going to extend the run with these belts, I would have liked it to be these two, but it does not look that way. I don't know what you guys think.
No, I agree with you. It's one of those things where it's like both. It's funny because we just had this belt conversation in the last segment, but like both the men's tag divisions are completely constipated. Like, though, let's not be in denial about that. Like, it's yes, Waller and Theory have been super entertaining. I loved the Jared Cannonier hitting the speed bag video. The WWE.com posted, it cracked me up. It was just comedy, and then like the drop kick comment by Theory was one of, I think, his best promo lines on or off on or off television that I've heard him drop. It was funny. He's like, I would have just drop kicked it if I'd known. It was good stuff. But yeah, as a team, I think they're both entertaining. The division, you need to build the division. You need to build challengers. You need to make it feel important, make it matter. I don't think it's about an issue with the belts. It's an issue with it. We have two comedy acts carrying the tag team titles on both brands. And one is a little bit easier to take serious than the other, but the other two are arguably Hall of Famers. So I don't know. It's a bizarre equation for me in my eyes. I don't know. I don't know if there is a true solution other than just building up the division as a whole. You got to have, the Creeds, you broke up Imperium. We have these legit tag teams, and you could have such a deep division and a depth of tag team wrestling. And to me, it's a stone left unturned. But let's talk about LA Knight. Yeah. And Carmelo Hayes, who doesn't miss usually, but boy, did he potentially miss Why did we job out Carmelo Hayes here? I don't get it. What are we doing with Melo? He doesn't miss. He's confident. He's awesome. He's a former champion on NXT. And he basically gets jobbed out to LA Knight in my eyes. Don't get me wrong. It was competitive. It's not like Carmelo looked bad, but why is he in this spot? Just for LA Knight to turn around and tell him, basically announce to the entire world out here on Fox that he's going to be invading Impulsive or Logan's house, or maybe, I don't know, cutting his tires or something. He's definitely going to be approaching Logan in public and not necessarily on WWE television based on what he said. I'm not totally sure, but I am excited to see whatever the clip is out of LA Knight. But what are we doing to Carmelo Hayes here, Anthony? Come on, man.
His entire main roster run has not been good. I don't think he's been good on the mic either. Like, he's had opportunities to talk on the mic and they've been horrible. Like last week, I think he screwed the name up, if I'm not mistaken. This main roster run is just not working for him. I don't know what it is. Visually, watching him in the ring, he's a smaller guy. I don't know if he's got long-term success. I don't know if this is one of those situations where he had great success in a small pond on NXT and then he got to the main roster and he couldn't swim with sharks. I'm afraid that this isn't going to work out. From what I'm seeing, I'm not saying this is a guy that's going to main event WrestleMania in a couple of years. I don't see that, which is the complete opposite when you look at Braun Breaker. Like, that's a guy that you're like, okay, they could build around. Carmelo, I'm just not seeing it. LA Knight, this is a situation where the fans have wanted him to get some type of gold, and they've drugged this out a long time. But like I said, Logan was the logical choice if he's going to take a belt off of anybody, because Logan's easily hateable. But honestly, I think Logan smoked him on the mic last night, referring to him as, hillbilly looking. I'm trying to remember the exact words were. But it was just, I thought he smoked him. And it's like, all right, well, I guess what you move on from this. Maybe LA Knight attacks him in the house. Maybe we get something reminiscent of old school Triple H attacking Orton and throwing him through the window. Like, I think that's what you kind of need. I think this needs to be like a heated rivalry. I think it needs to get personal. And I think that's the way to do it. I think you need to make this personal because, quite frankly, going into that match of Knight and Carmelo, you're like, okay, Melo's jobbing out because he's not the one in a story. He's just backstage annoying people and losing. Knight against Logan, that's the story. That's where they're going towards. I'm presuming, in my opinion, Knight's probably going to win it at SummerSlam in Logan's hometown. I think that's where Logan's going to lose.
Absolutely. That does make some sense. I get it. I do think Knight and Logan it makes a lot of sense. I just, the card placement for me when it comes to Carmelo is where I just had a issue. Like, he got to give the guy a shot. You can't just trot him out there to lose to LA Knight.
I get it.
And it's brutal.
they're giving him shots, but he's not nailing. The
Well,
promos.
what's he supposed to do taking a short match loss to LA Knight?
Yeah, but
He did his job.
The promos have been bad. Like, he hasn't delivered a solid promo since he's gone to the main roster.
Woof. I mean, okay, let's move along. Let's talk about Bayley taking on Piper Niven. I liked this little promo segment. The Mae Young Classic, Piper bringing up Chelsea Green calling Bayley a loser. What was it, 10 times? I didn't count, but more than enough times. It's fun. Bayley does feel like a babyface. It's weird because I've been a huge Bayley fan. I was very critical, though, of the run with Damage Control. I want a little personality back. What Bayley was doing during the pandemic to me, when it comes to the ding dong hello stuff, the Bayley 2 straps, dose straps, I apologize. But like some of the best work I think of her career. Deserved win at Mania this year, but I want to see the Bayley character, whether as a babyface or a heel, it doesn't matter. Piper, though, to me last night was the move, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the matchup. Jordy, I want to get your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for her. It's good. I think it was a smart move what they did last night. I think Piper needed it. I think to educate, obviously, Bayley in terms of a kayfabe situation. But I think not only doing that, she was educating a lot of the crowd, myself included, on kind of just quite how long she's been in the game. And I found out probably, I don't know, maybe a year back that no, it can't have even been that Chelsea and Piper actually lived together when they were working in Japan. And when I found that out, it kind of gave me a little bit more respect for these two as a partnership, to know that they had been friends all that time and not just thrown together. I like the way that Chelsea's supporting her. I think it's good that she's getting her own match on Friday against Naomi, one of Bayley's best friends. I think the whole thing's working well. I think Piper kind of leaning into that nasty side to say something like, if you really knew me, you wouldn't want to stand that close to me. Yeah, that's a threatening thing to say to someone, man, and it's a bit of a change of pace from what we've been seeing in that's almost been like a comedy act with Chelsea. That being said, about 5 minutes after it, when we're seeing a backstage segment, Piper had gone back to that comedy act with Chelsea, which kind of felt a little bit off for me, because I felt she'd laid really good groundwork in the ring, in the promo with Bayley, and I was like, oh, maybe we are going to see a different side to her, maybe one that gets sick of Chelsea kind of thing. But alas, that did not happen. But yeah, it's going to be great in Scotland. And you know what's interesting for me? It's something that I didn't quite realize until I went to Money in the Bank. The UK crowd love Bayley, man. They absolutely love Bayley. Like we were cheering. Some of the loudest chants of the night were for Bayley. So obviously she's not going to have that because she's going to be in Scotland, and you will think a lot of the chants would go for Piper. So that interests me in just a little kind of thing, that to see which way the crowd go in that match. And obviously, as far as again kayfabe goes, Piper is the heel in this situation. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting match, but it will be good, and I think it's going to be good for everyone involved. Everyone will benefit from this match.
You know, it's funny, Jordy, you mentioned that. I've always noticed a big Northern California connection with the UK, and Bayley's from NorCal, and I wonder if that has something to do with it. And to your point, I'm wondering if that crowd's going to be more split than we anticipate.
It could be. It might not. It might not, because people love Scottish people a lot. And this was in London.
Piper is Scottish.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Piper is Scottish. So she does have that hometown advantage. But yeah, it was almost like when Bayley was in London, it was like I think it almost took her by surprise, because at the time she was again doing heel work with Damage Control, but she was still doing the ripping the signs, the thumbs down as she was coming out at everyone, but everyone was still just cheering her. So I'm just intrigued to see whether that is going to.
You never know. Bayley is also just more popular, I think, than even. I don't even think the WWE realizes her level of popularity.
No, probably not. I think they saw it this Mania and on the build-up. I think they were like, "Oh, damn! Like she people love her. Like,
Yeah, I didn't expect that, right? Like, 100%. Okay, let's get into our main event segment of the afternoon, evening, depends on where you are. We had a tribal anointment. We had the Bloodline against the Street Profits, and then we had Kevin Owens. But we had one MVP, and it was definitely Paul Heyman. I mean,
again.
how funny is just getting sent to Nick Aldis's office? I like the 6-man tag idea. Like, oh, I mean, in his eyes, I would assume it's makeup, unless he's just holding his breath for the 2 minutes prior to shooting the segment. Nobody's eyes look like that normal, but it's so funny. And it gets me every single time. Anthony, I gotta ask you about. Let's start with the match itself, and then let's talk about everything around it involving Kevin Owens, the Bloodline. We've got a new right hand man. We've got a lot to break down here when it comes to this segment.
Yeah, I mean, the match itself was nothing, and quite frankly, you didn't expect it to be anything. It's essentially to establish the new bloodline, because without any other name, I just refer to it as the Savage Line, because that's what it is. It's three savages that are more vicious than the original bloodline was. And unfortunately, the Profits and Owens are good guys to beat up for this stuff. They make it look believable. You know, they're obviously throwing hints and daggers at Roman. There's taunts. You know, Solo using the spear, them using the shield power bomb through the table. That's what that was. And I've said before, Heyman really is, when everything is said and done, when all the career is done, Heyman was the MVP, the most important piece of this bloodline of any version, because he's the one that's able to carry these stories. He carried it when Roman wasn't there. He's carrying it again while Roman's not there. You know, he's a hostage. He's in a situation he's never been in. He's always been in control when he had a client or he led a stable, the Dangerous Alliance. He was always in control. He's not in control now, and you could see he's fearing for his life. He's afraid to anger this bloodline. And that's not a situation Heyman's ever been in. It's unique. The closest was with Roman, and when he was mad, or Brock, but it was very rare. This, it's every week you're seeing Heyman unravel. And at some point, it's going to come to a head. I'm a little surprised he hasn't gone gray hair yet, but at some point, he's probably going gray again. It's all leading towards the eventual OG line against Savage line. That's where it's going.
Yeah, I like that idea a ton too. I think that's a lot of us see that. I would love to see a Tonga versus Samoa split somehow if they could pull that off. I don't know, man. There's so many possibilities here. But like you said, Kevin Owens and the Profits make a lot of sense in that match when it comes to, you know, selling and making them look great. Obviously, they end up actually winning by DQ. So that's kind of the irony there. They picked up the victory, but it is still just a bizarre spot we're in here, because we're kind of just waiting on Jimmy. We're waiting on Roman. We're waiting on, are they going to introduce somebody else? And Paul Heyman providing that entertainment, I do think, is a key. What do you think for the bloodline it looks like over these next few months, Jordy? Because we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We're only about 2.5 months out from SummerSlam.
Well, I think, again, just talking about what Paul Heyman's doing, he's turning himself face, and all while with Roman just sat at home having a break, he's somehow making Roman one of the biggest faces in the company as well, with his actions, which I think is just one of the most incredible things. I think it was going to happen anyway. I think people are talking about SummerSlam for Roman to come back. I personally don't know if it will be then. I think it'll be a little bit longer down the line, but I might be wrong. I think in terms of where we're headed, I think Jimmy will probably come back first. It wouldn't surprise me if Jimmy maybe comes back with a new member himself to try and take down the Bloodline, that then ends up turning on Jimmy, and then Jimmy's outnumbered, and then at that point he needs to go and he needs to get Jay and he needs to get Roman and maybe even Sammy to make it kind of the ultimate face Bloodline. But yeah, it's long-term storytelling, and I think we're just at the beginning. I just think it's great because I genuinely thought that potentially after Roman had been beat at Mania, the Bloodline kind of just would go quiet and it would be Solo with just Paul as a manager kind of thing, and it wouldn't really be much about the actual team and the Bloodline and the family. It would just be more about Solo and getting him over and getting him some kind of matches behind him and some good solid feuds. But the way they've done it, I didn't see it coming with bringing Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa over. It's good, man. It's really good. I think they're doing an incredible job. So once again, I don't know if you would say that it's the most talked about thing, because obviously AJ and Cody now has elevated into a storyline that we all want to know, and with the stipulation match, but it's definitely one of the most spoke about things in WWE without Roman being there. And I didn't think that'd be the case, man. I thought they'd just kind of let it simmer and wait for Roman to come back to reignite it, but what they've done has been solid. Really, really great stuff.
100%. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's like one of the toughest questions is, obviously you've got The Rock involved in this storyline, even though he's not on TV.
Mm-hmm.
We know he's involved. And you've got Roman. How do you bring those two back into the fold? And I've been thinking about it for a while. And I'm thinking we need to get to a spot where this current version of the Bloodline is picking on Paul to the extent where we're not even calling him the wise man anymore. And he uses the fact that he's the wise man. He's the only one that knows Reigns is in the building the night that Solo, Tama, Tonga Loa, and whether it's Jacob Fatu or whoever else is involved in this, the night that they are finally done with the wise man, he's the only one of that group that is aware of the fact that Roman Reigns is there. And Roman's music hits at the exact appropriate time. That building explodes.
Yeah, I think this face turn kind of started, and people it started the night of the Hall of Fame when Paul gave that speech. And I know at this point he was still a heel, and a lot of people still wanted Cody to win, and not just Paul, Roman too. I think when Roman gave the speech to introduce Paul, I think even just saying the thing like, I didn't really want to do it, but he asked me, and I love my wise man. And I think that's the friendship that we play on to make Roman the biggest face in the company. And people said that it's impossible. I don't think it is, man. I think at this point, even now, if you did it at Clash, I think when that tribal kind of choir hits, and I think the hands are gonna go up. I think the place is gonna absolutely erupt in cheers, not boos. But one thing that did cross my mind, and I thought would be great. How great would it be if Roman came back and just went, "You all thought that The Rock or someone was doing this. It was me. I was talking to Solo."
That if you're gonna double down on being a heel,
back, like, yeah, how good would that be? And he just comes back, everyone cheers, and then he just like pushes Paul over or something. I'd be like,
to me, that's some of the brilliance of this whole story is you have multiple avenues. You could do that. You could bring The Rock back first, have it be him, and do the right. You could flip both roles, both ways.
Yeah, it could go many ways.
You have the Usos. I think the irony of actually spending time, which is something that was complained about with like, what's this new Bloodline? It's not the same with Solo and the Gorillas of Destiny and building them up. No, that's part of the brilliance of this. So it's going to take some time to vet all this out and make each moment really matter. But they're searching for the big moment, right? Not necessarily you love every single second of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some brilliance to that because it is really hard to get a crowd in stitches these days, like completely in stitches, where it's like shock and awe. I mean, I even go back and look at the NXT episode where you have the debuts or the appearances from Jordan Grace and Ethan Page last week. The fact that was kept a secret from not just the casual fan or the hardcore fan, but everybody basically. Nobody really knew that was going to happen. That's what pro wrestling's about. We need more of that.
They did it. Punk was incredible. Like
that as well.
And everybody was predicting it, but it hit a point where you'd seen that many leaks, you'd seen that many things saying it was true, that many things saying it wasn't, that you just didn't know anymore.
You had no idea.
And it seemed unlikely. It just, as a wrestling fan who kind of knew WWE and Punk, we like, surely not. And the fact that they brought the little trademark thing in the corner up before that music hit completely threw me. And I agree, we need more of that. So if Roman came back and doubled down and kind of pushed Paul into a corner and was like, yeah, it was me, why you all cheering, that would shock me, and I would be like, oh my god, this is brilliant. And then bring back The Rock as the face. I don't know.
I love that though. No, I'm with you. I want to get worked. That's why I watch pro wrestling.
Yeah, me too. Right? Me too.
I want to get worked. I want to think it's going to be one thing and be wrong.
Yeah, me too. I want to be wrong, but
100%.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, to me, the fun of watching wrestling as a whole. But that does bring us to the end of the show on Saturday. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it on behalf of Wrestling Republic. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please give us that thumbs up, hammer that thumbs up button, and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place for the daily, but we've got a stacked lineup tomorrow. We're going to have Sunday Night Spotlight in the afternoon. We're going to have Off the Air with me, Shad, and Megan immediately following NXT Battleground from the UFC Apex. We are also going to have the daily as usual, same time. I already said that. That's it. Those are the shows when it comes to that. Thank you so much once again on behalf of me, Anthony, Jordy. Have an excellent Saturday afternoon, night, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Peace.